Hi, Luca. Thank you so much for coming to the Founder Talk. How's it going?
Great, fantastic. I'm happy to be here.
My pleasure having you. And you actually today you're living in Barcelona, so the beautiful Barcelona. And would you like to give a short introduction to yourself before we move to the pitch?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, I was born and raised in the United States and moved to Barcelona about 20 years ago. Actually, I came here to study my MBA, and how a lot of men do. I ended up getting married, having kids, and settling down in Barcelona. It's been a great time to be in Barcelona. A lot of great technology and startups growing in this ecosystem. So I got a little bit lucky on that respect, but happy to be here and happy to be running this company out of a great city like Barcelona.
Maybe when you moved back then was not that great because it's been evolving for the last 10 years. I mean, Europe has done a lot for
Europe,
what.
Europe, Europe has been a big benefit to Spain in general and to Barcelona in
Oh, yeah.
particular. And you're right, like all the building blocks were there 20, 30 years ago. The right foundations were laid, but not much was happening commercially until the last 5, 10 years. So we're starting to see the ecosystem really blossom now.
That's true. So let's start talking about Distinkt.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Distinkt. We've spun out of university. After many years of research, we create smart nano inks. Our inks are created with specialized nanoparticles, which are only visible in a specific kind of ultraviolet plus near infrared light. So this is a very unique visual creation that was never possible utilizing inks before. And so we're very excited to be able to present these particles. What we're doing is still very much the cutting edge of innovation, what is feasible, what is physically feasible with inks. And we know that both the patent that we have now and the future patents we developed will I think, carve a new path for what is possible utilizing printed solutions in the anti-counterfeiting industry. So we're really happy to present that here with you today. The primary problem that we're aimed at solving is that of anti-counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is a massive problem which has really blown up over the last few years, especially with all of the sales online. We've removed a lot of the physical checkpoints which used to be able to detect counterfeit goods. The estimate today is that more than 3.3% of all globally traded goods are counterfeit, and that number is probably low. It's growing very fast. So this is a $224 billion global problem. And you might think to yourself, well, who really cares? If I can buy a cheaper Gucci on the street, fantastic. But if you really think about what the implications of this massive counterfeit industry are, all of these products are being produced with no regulation. They're environmentally hazardous, poor labor conditions. So at the very least, we're creating lots of additional problems for ourselves by allowing this to perpetuate. Additionally, is that these counterfeit goods, passports, IDs, there's a lot of identity theft associated with it. There's human trafficking that it enables. There's also inflation caused by artificially printed bills. Not to mention the tax losses for everything that is sold that's counterfeit is not going to the government, not benefiting society. So these are massive problems that we're trying to tackle. And security inks was the first, I would say, anti-counterfeiting solution, right? People would hide solutions in passports, on banknotes, the dollar bills, or the euro, in order to be able to identify real versus counterfeit products. But these solutions were created more than 30 years ago, and there hasn't been really significant advances in technology in the industry. And just for your information, where these inks are mostly utilized is on euro bills, is on what we call tax stamps. So these are the tax foils that are attached to wine bottles or packs of cigarettes. They're on our currency, they're on our IDs, but it's also commonly used in luxury goods for brand protection and supply chain authentication. So the uses for these inks are vast. In the world of security inks, there are different types of inks. The first are what we call optical variable. These are like holograms, right? You can have a printed solution. If you look at it one way, you see a face, and then the face turns if you look at it at a slightly different angle. This is the first, I would say, really significant advance in security inks, which is now quite old. Then we started introducing inks that required external stimuli, so either luminescent or thermo inks, which require either a specialized light source like ultraviolet lamps or maybe heat. You might be familiar with this when you go to the airport and they pass your passport underneath a UV lamp, and you can see special inks light up. And these are an indication to the border agent that the passport is in fact authentic. Now, the challenge with both the optical variable inks and the external stimuli inks is that they're static design. So once you print it on the substrate, you can't modify it. So in order to copy it, all you need to do is see it once, and you need to have the same inks to reproduce it. So it's very easy to copy, and that's what's happened in counterfeiting today. So the last sort of decade, we've seen the emergence of forensic inks. So these are highly sophisticated inks using specialized chemical agents, using rare earths, using biomarkers, where they can hide different identifiers on documents, but they're very hard to read, they're hard to apply, and they're quite expensive. So it makes the use of these items difficult in high volume cases. So what we've created is actually a new level of ink, which uses the benefits of these sort of external stimuli inks, but with a much more industry-friendly process. So our inks are first and foremost irreplicable. No one is able to create a change in color under fluorescence. So what we're doing in the scientific world, if you're familiar with light, you have the ultraviolet spectrum, the white light spectrum, which we can all see, and the near infrared spectrum. And actually, our inks allow us to transition an ink and change color from ultraviolet into near infrared. So we take advantage of both light sources in crossing the visual spectrum, and that's what makes us impossible to replicate. We're very easy to add into industry. Our particles come in a powder form. We can add them to existing ultraviolet solutions, or we can create our own. And by design, our inks are completely green. We're not using any rare earths. We're not using any hazardous chemicals or products that can't be later discarded into the environment. So we've been very careful to design these in such a way that they're completely sustainable for planet Earth. What our ink does in practice is, on the far left, you see white light. So our ink will appear like a bland kind of brown under white light, so you can see it with the naked eye. If you add a UV lamp, it turns a bright red. And then with the addition of a near infrared laser or near infrared LEDs, then we can get that color to change from red to yellow. Now, what makes us special is when you remove the near infrared light, actually the yellow can be maintained. We can make it permanent, or we can make it reversible. So it can either go back to orange and eventually back to brown, or we can keep it yellow. And that also is a truly unique feature of our patents. So we have samples here just to give you a sense of what it looks like. On the far left, you see our powder under an ultraviolet lamp, how it really shines bright red. And we can utilize these powders to use printed solutions like QR codes. And we can hide features in QR codes that can only be seen by a certain light source or a certain sequence of lights. So they're very advanced solutions. We do have a very strong patent on the back of our ink, and we already have designed to create more patents and future IP. So the ink market, actually, the way we want to go to market is in a two-phased approach. The first is we want to be an additive for existing ink solutions. The security ink industry is a very large industry. So you have these big multinationals which bid on government contracts to provide the security solutions for their money or their passport. We can't compete in that market as a small company, so we'll be selling our inks as an additive into those markets, where we can just add our powder to their existing inks and they can create this unique effect. We're also working with the infrastructure holders, which are the people who make printing machines. So you might be familiar with HP, has a branch called HP Indigo, which is specializing in security solutions. There's lots of manufacturers of machines, and we need to get our ink to fit into their cartridges, which require some engineering on our side. But we're working with those players to make sure our ink can be used everywhere. As an additive, our ink has a fairly decent market size, about 20 million in recurrent revenue, but it's limited given the use cases of security inks. So we're also looking at how to use our ink in end-to-end authentication solutions. And we're talking to brands and we're talking to large players. So utilizing our inks, printing them through QR codes onto tags, onto stickers that we can put on packages. We can make them reversible, we can make them irreversible, we can actually hide inks under different colors that can be basically removed. We can remove the color to see certain codes or certain patterns so that the code will return because it's a reversible solution. So our idea is to create lots of end user solutions for our customers, and then tag that to a track and trace software so we can identify where counterfeiters are copying our products. The packaging industry is a much bigger industry, and this is where we expect that we'll build a much bigger, sustainable business model, which can exceed 200 million in recurrent revenue. The best part about our team is that we're all very experienced. Our team of technology experts, this is their 10th patent already. They've spun out 3 technology companies before this. Myself and the team of entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs also who are on the commercial side, who are responsible for fundraising and sales. We've already launched 8 companies in all different technical areas. And we're supported by an outstanding team of experts, both on technology and the commercial side. So building a startup with the right team is everything, and we think that we've got a fantastic team to make this grow really fast. So we're currently raising 2.3 million for our commercial launch, which will happen in 2024, and we're building the team towards that. And we're happy to talk to anyone about our growth trajectory and in your questions. So we say, please come support Distinkt because we believe that your security matters, and we're out there to protect you and to protect society.
Thank you, Luca. While you were pitching, I was thinking, in my opinion, today, counterfeiting has been very difficult to somehow to handle, because if myself I'm going to buy a bag, wherever it comes from, because the bag counterfeited are not only on the street but also in the shop, I can recognize it. Same Rolex, anything, because I don't have the tool to recognize it. So going to your solution, that's a solution given only to B2B, but me as a customer, I have no idea how to understand if I'm going to buy 30,000 Hermes bag, me no for sure.
Right.
It's going to be real, or actually they just sold me something that has nothing to do. So my question is, what I do is great, and after we can talk a bit more about the technology behind. But how can I myself making sure I buy something real and not something that has nothing to do with a
Right.
mess? Yeah,
It's a great question, Max, and actually, it's a complicated answer because I think we like to believe that we don't want to buy counterfeit goods, but we do it and we know we do it, right? If you're
yeah,
buying from someone who's selling on a towel on the beach in Sitges, you know this is not an authentic good. Now, you might tell yourself that it might be, but it's not, and you know that. So channel is really everything. So if you're really concerned with authenticity, buy from stores that are verified. I mean, that's the first learning point. But what we know from human behavior is that 50% of people actively own something they know to be counterfeit. So the first part of this is behavioral change, is really understanding the effects of purchasing and sustaining an industry which creates a lot of secondary and tertiary social and environmental problems, right? And I think we need to own up to that. It's great to save money, but at the end of the day, it is enabling a lot of really bad behavior and bad social consequences. That's number one. So that's something we can't fix as an ink solution. Number two is, you're right that we will start with B2B solutions where actually the owners of the brands can authenticate their product. But we're working with a provider already on a advanced digital verification method utilizing mobile phones. And the challenge with mobile phone validation is that the cameras are not sophisticated enough to identify fluorescence. They just cannot see fluorescent inks, and they particularly can't see changes in fluorescence. So there is a spin out here that we're working with. I won't say their name because I don't have their permission, but they're outstanding. They've spun out of advanced research as well that can detect very subtle color changes using mobile devices. And so our idea is that within a couple of years, we'll be able to provide that to end users as well, that they can authenticate for themselves. Again, I don't think that's the biggest problem behind falsification and counterfeiting. I think social behavior is the primary one. But in the cases that people genuinely don't know if they're authentic or not, we do want to provide that option to the end buyers.
If you can make the phone reading something similar, this will be
Right.
pretty much something different
Well,
than
we
the
know
solution.
every solution now has to be digital enabled, right? If you can't do it with your phone, it's not worth doing. And we're pretty confident we have a solution for that, but it'll take a little while to get that to market.
In B2B, okay, but in terms of business model, how are you going to make money in your B2B sale?
Right. So you make money on the service. If we're not selling. It's true that our patent is an ink solution, but we're selling security to our customers. We're selling end-to-end authentication, so we can guarantee that whatever we put our ink on at the point of origin, at the point of manufacturing, at the first point in the chain, that at the end it's going to be the same product. The reason we can guarantee that is because no one can replicate the effect that we can. So there's no, even if the supply chain is corrupt, even if there are disruptions or bad behavior, we can tell you for certainty that the product you're selling to your end customer is the same one that we started with. We're using both physical and virtual authentication to do this. We've started with the physical ink, but we already have designs on a blockchain solution where we can pair our unique markings with a unique digital imprint and a unique digital tracking. So we can tell you both in the virtual world and in the physical world that the elements that you're selling are the ones that you believe you're selling. It's not complicated. We're using it sounds perhaps complex, but we're using some recent technologies, but none of them inherently complex in their nature. We're using advanced materials in a new way, but we're not using rare earths. We're not using complex chemicals. We're using blockchain in a new way, but not in a way that it's not equipped to handle. So we're a team of practical technologists, I would say. We like to live out on the edge, but not so far out that there's a lot of technology risk. So we're going to provide comfort to customers and comfort to our brands that choose us to protect them.
Unify with blockchain, this will be very powerful, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's a big industry of collectibles, right? We've been talking to companies that are doing like something relatively new in the last 5-10 years, right? Is collecting tennis shoes, and it's like, well, how do you know that the first Nike Airs that I own are the right ones? And a lot of these companies, they actually have challenges because they have to store these shoes in airtight containers and warehouses, and sometimes the owners never even touch them; they just buy and trade them. So it's the same thing that the collectibles industry or the auction industry has been dealing with for years: is how do you validate a Picasso, or how do you authenticate a work of art? And we believe that we've created solutions which can authenticate that these products, these physical products, are what they claim to be, in a way that's not invasive and not particularly expensive. It's easy to do. It's easy to use. It's easy to understand. I think some of the alternatives out in the world are irreplicable. They're equally irreplicable as we are, but they're complex. They're difficult to authenticate, and at the end of the day, they're just impractical to use.
In terms of market, that's a digital product, pretty much product when they are so digital they can reach any aspect of the world, any angle. But where is your primary market now?
Our market is in packaging and security packaging. So we want to be on specialized brands at point of origin. We want to be applied throughout the value chain. We're focused on Europe and the US as initial markets, but there's also a lot of interesting brands in Japan, South Korea, which we're talking to and exploring possibilities about. So, we're not bound to any kind of physical footprint. It's, again, because what we sell is nanoparticles. They're very small, and the use of our product is quite easily integrated into existing systems. You don't have to do a lot of new activities in order to benefit from our solution.
For this round, how the money are going to be used, and in terms of investors, what are you looking for?
So the 2.3 that we're raising now is going to be people, half on the R&D side, half on the marketing sales side, and product. Right, we're building out the software solution. So the hardware, for the most part, the hardware will always be evolving. We're always going to be creating new solutions. We're always going to be utilizing new materials. So that's kind of a part of our permanent R&D. All of those costs are captured in personnel. There's not a lot of material or machining costs there. So it's all about really building out the software, building out the digital reader, building out the track and trace software, and getting the end-to-end user solution complete.
I mean, there is a lot of IP, intellectual property, in what you're doing. Does it belong all to you guys, or something is taken from outside?
Right. All of our IP has been generated by the team that is launching this company. We are a spin out of three educational institutions, universities. One is the University Autónoma of Barcelona, the Institute for, sorry, I have to translate these things, the Institute for Nanotechnology and Nanoscience of Catalunya, ICN2, and CSIC, which is the Scientific National Level Board of Scientists in Spain. Those three entities own the original patent. They're shareholders in our company. They're members of those entities are advisors to us, and they will always be core to the heart of what we do in the R&D field. However, the company itself retains all the rights of commercializing the IP, exclusive global rights to commercialize the IP that we create together. So in that respect, it's all owned by us or co-owned, but we have all the commercial rights.
Let me close with the best possible elevator pitch. If I give you 20 seconds to convince investors, what would you like to say to them?
That's a good one. 20 seconds. All right. Distinkt can create the easiest to use and most creative visual anti-counterfeiting solutions to authenticate goods in the industry. Not only are we effective at identifying fake goods, but we are a beautiful solution which can be used to enhance your brand image.
Luca, thank you so much for coming to the Founder Talk. It's been an
Great.
absolute pleasure. Thank
Max,
you.
it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.